All right, welcome. It's another week. It's another day of the Live Pro Network. This is the show where I bring in another professional and we talk live, so we can do the networking in front of you, so you get the benefit of that as well. So I'm really excited about today's guest. Let's bring her in. So welcome, Billy.
Hi,
So,
how you doing
so
today?
Billy, good. I'm doing well. So Billy is another attorney. She's from Modern Law. And we have a lot in common. She's an attorney, but also takes on kind of a coaching role as well. And she was part of the task force in Arizona that got this new law change where next year it's going to allow non lawyers to practice law and fee sharing, something that I'm really excited about, but it was really polarizing. So we're going to chat about that as well. So, so do you want to share how we know each other or where the line was when we chatted?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. um,
I like to break all the rules on this podcast. That's
I
kind of my.
see.
Let's just
I
kind of
see.
like have a conversation. We'll live. We'll let everyone in so they can get
Yeah,
the benefit.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you and I have a lot in common. We're both divorced parents, and
yeah,
while
that
we
too.
should have met um, at some sort of legal tech event or some sort of law related event, we actually met on an online dating platform. And when I saw your description, you were like, I don't remember, how we connected, but I saw your description and you're like legal technology entrepreneur, and I'm like, what? Like, there's a legal technology entrepreneur that lives here that I don't know. Like, that's my world. That's my universe. So I knew we had to meet. Would absolutely have so much in common and definitely get along. And yeah, I mean, we're both law firm owners, we're both parents, we're both divorced, we're both in the legal tech space. So I'm so excited to meet you and then so excited to be here.
Yeah, so we had a great conversation. That was outdoors. It was super hot, is what I remember. And we're
Yeah.
both, just law firm owners, also practicing law. So just
Mhm.
it's hard to squeeze in
Yeah.
a quick meeting, and then we're both, back to our lives. But yeah, so all right, so on this show, I like to interview the guest a little bit. So one of the goals is that people that watch this, I get asked a lot if I know any good family law attorneys or any whatever it is in a lot of different industries. So part of the goal of this is so people can get to know who you are,
Mhm.
about you, and start building the network that way. And then the name Live Pro Network, we're live right now, another professional. So just want to build that database. Let's
Yeah,
see.
absolutely. That's brilliant.
So how would you describe what you do? We can start with just some of the basics. I'd say the people watching live or later on the replay, leave your comments for Billy about she's one of the on the task force about her laws, so we can discuss those later. Um, but yeah, let's start with how would you describe what you do?
Sure. So I have three companies and I guess three different. The biggest is Modern Law, and Modern Law is a family law firm with four offices throughout the valley. The biggest is in Dana Park, and
What?
we
Shout out Dana Park.
are so we are a 10-year-old family law firm, growing really rapidly. I think we're up to 7 or 8 lawyers, and we only do family law. We have a really strong
Just in Arizona, four offices
in Arizona.
in
Mhm.
so Valley Metro area, so Phoenix
Yeah,
Metro.
yeah.
So
Um,
nice.
and so that modern law really focuses on providing like excellent legal strategy, litigation, a lot of complex divorces. The second company that I have is I Do Over, and I Do Over is a legal doc prep company. So many people may not know this, but for 20 years in Arizona, there we have had a certified practitioner, legal practitioner that is a certified legal document preparer. And those individuals cannot practice law, but they can provide legal documents. They can create legal documents on behalf of people. Um, And so one of my companies does that. And so people who can't afford lawyers can go get legal help from professionals who can walk them through the process, help them with the paperwork, help them flag any issues they may want to speak to an attorney about. And Modern Law and I Do Over work really closely hand in hand. The other super cool thing that we're adding to I Do Over is I just hired a therapist who's going to be.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. So we're going to have support groups for children of divorce. We're going to have support for people who are going through divorce, and then support groups for people who are post-divorce and trying to figure out, like, what do I do with my life now?
So
and all of that's going to be through I Do Over.
Through I Do Over. Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Which company? So I Do Over. So
Yep.
nice. So that's
Yep.
so it provides documents
Mm-hmm.
and counseling. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not practicing law, and
It's
that
not.
out
Yeah.
of that entity. So
Yeah, and you can get there's also online courses you can get there on developing parenting plans, walking yourself through the family court system. In family law, about 80% of people don't use attorneys. So
yeah,
that company is entirely dedicated to people resources who are representing themselves so they can do the best job possible.
nice. So I want to hear what your third company is, and then this might be a good time to talk about what the new law brings in. It's like new. I don't know what they're called, but they're like kind of like what a PA is. I think is the best description to doctors. Is that so? Tell me first. Tell me your third company, then let's come back to that a little bit,
Okay, okay.
and go back to I Do Over.
Yeah, so the third company is Modern Law Practice, and that is a legal consulting and outsourced intake firm. So we do outsourced intake for lawyers and law firms. That intake service provides, a sales and customer service force. We schedule, we collect money, we convert clients into consultations for lawyers, and we help lawyers with technology, practice management, culture, whatever is going on in law firms. That's what that company does.
Nice. So how long have you been doing that? The modern law practice.
Good question. I think we're at like 2.5 years.
And okay, so cool. Yeah, so we're on very similar course because
Mm-hmm.
I practice under Dana and Associates, and then I
Mm-hmm.
have Mont Legal, which is
Mm-hmm.
my practice management company. But really, just been using it in house, trying to refine it
Mm,
for the last couple of years.
yeah,
So
that's very cool.
so
Modern
that's
law
part
practice
like when we
probably
chatted
has,
just for a little bit. We're like, oh my gosh, we have like so many similar. Um, yeah, go ahead. What were we saying?
uh, well, modern law practice has, I think, 20 or 25 clients now. So it's definitely growing and it's growing quickly. And the largest arm is that outsourced intake.
Is that all in Arizona?
No, it's all over the country. And then
All
the
over the
other thing
country?
that lawyers can find at modernlawpractice.com is specific courses for lawyers on how to do intake within your office, how to do consultation, sales training for lawyers. So super, super fun stuff that you can go check out there.
Nice. I'm definitely going to check out more of that. So is it all family law specific?
It's not. It's not.
So
So we have estate planning clients, we have special education clients, criminal law clients, really all over the board.
so yeah, that's great. So we'll have to chat more about that too. To see if there's ways that I can utilize some of those services now through my practice.
Sure, totally.
So I'm going back to like the document preparers. Tell us what is that new thing called in Arizona? What's the new position created?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, the Supreme Court of Arizona put together a task force on the future of legal services. Now, these task force on the future of legal services have been floating around for at least the last 20 years. And usually, just to be very honest, they don't really move the ball forward. They don't really do a lot. They do a lot of, they come up with the 80% of people aren't covered. They analyze the rules, but they haven't really gotten a lot of traction to make
So
major reform
who
until now.
who organizes these task force?
The ABA has task forces, the bar associations within different states, and then in this case, it was the Supreme Court.
The
Because
Supreme Court.
Mhm.
I think the word on the street. You can say whether you disagree or not, but it's the big accounting companies that made it
Yeah,
happen. This is it true?
they
Is
have
there truth
had
to that?
no, like zero influence on
Really, zero influence?
zero, because I can tell you exactly who came in and spoke to us, exactly what we looked at, and exactly what the
They're
Supreme
not the
Court
ones that
justice.
said Ducey, like you need to do that, like organize this or put this together in
Juicy
your
has nothing
state.
to do with it. Business had nothing to do with it. This was really about the Supreme Court saying, look, the bar rules, the ethics rules are for the protection of the public, not for the protection of lawyers. And we know that the public isn't accessing legal services. So are rules protecting the public? Is there evidence that says that no fee splitting protects the public or that non-lawyer ownership would hurt the public? And there wasn't.
Yeah, so I think it's really exciting. And in my research led me to, create a practice management company. I studied, saw how other countries have done this, right? Like other
Mm-hmm.
countries allow non-attorneys to own law firms.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the dental industry
Mm-hmm.
and in with doctors, there's practice management companies as kind of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like these laws pave way for that. And this is something that I thought would happen eventually. And
Mm-hmm.
I was really proud to see that it happened in Arizona. So thank you and the task force for your work on that and being and looking forward. And I think it's going to be great for the practice of law. Obviously, there's been some critics. I don't know what what it's been like for you. Um, um, I posted on Facebook after it passed, and I was just kind of surprised on some of the reactions. But what has your response been since this is only what, like a few weeks ago? We're talking like 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago. Um, you know, it's you say that. I also posted on Facebook. It lead to a spirited and lively discussion. And lawyers are nervous because most lawyers are struggling. Who doesn't know the lawyers are struggling with their businesses? So we've got this dichotomy, right, where lawyers are struggling with their business and clients aren't really accessing the lawyers that they need. And so lawyers are scared and they're protective and they're like, why should somebody else be able to come in and put me out of business, which is completely understandable. But I think it is an opportunity for lawyers if we change our perspective. And at this point, we don't really have an option in Arizona. This is happening. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, and as I can still call myself a younger lawyer. 10 years into the business, it feels good to have a little bit of experience. But my perspective was when I started this profession that was kind of the old way. When attorneys held the control and they didn't have to be good, is the way I described it. Pre-internet, they had the answers. You had to go to them and pay them to get help. Like now
Right.
that you can freely access information,
Mhm.
I feel like that's highlighted the fact that attorneys, successful attorneys, are need to be a service-based business. They
I
have to,
completely agree with you.
um, and what people have to, what they might need to know that aren't in the legal industry watching this is, it was illegal for attorneys to even advertise. Not that long ago. What, like,
Mhm.
we're talking 30 years ago.
Mhm. Well, I think wasn't it the 80s? I think.
40 years ago.
Mhm.
So, and they're still part of that generation practicing law, right?
Mhm.
There's still some of those people.
Mhm.
A lot of them wanted to retire in 2008, but then they got killed by the stock market and real estate, and then they're still hanging on, wanting to do it the old way, just um, not adapting, but just wanting to have the role. I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, life was comfortable without competition.
Yeah, and I feel like the LegalZoom and the internet options were kind of a preview of that. It showed different options, which I think is good. Like as a lawyer, like I don't know about you, but well, obviously I think you're the same because you have a document preparation company. Like if people
Mhm.
don't need us, great,
Mhm.
right? Like we
Right.
don't need
Right.
to make things more complicated so the
Yeah.
public has to hire lawyers. That is not a disservice.
Well, and it's especially interesting coming from you because LegalZoom doesn't really have any of the family law niche. They really don't because it's so specific to the county and to the state. But LegalZoom has, fulfilled an estate planning niche. But it doesn't mean that you are out of business. It doesn't mean that people don't still need your expertise.
It's changed my business for sure. And here's what's changed. Like people screw up more stuff. I make more money fixing things.
Yeah.
So it's I see the opportunity. Now obviously I want the public to get the best service,
Hmm.
Yeah, it's sad when people screw things up, but I feel like that's the biggest change I've seen in the estate planning industry. So I'm seeing
Hmm.
things where they thought it was a good idea because they just filled in the blanks themselves, but
Hmm.
they didn't realize what it how hard it might be to administer a estate when they leave out some details.
Sure.
So yeah, definitely changed it. Yeah. All right. So family law. So let's get back into kind of family law specifically.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about. I like to talk about the good versus the bad. Like so, we touched on that a little bit. I would say kind of the old way where the attorneys want to control information and the comfortable. But what should people watch out for when hiring a family law attorney? Or I
Yeah.
guess when getting divorced, not necessarily hiring an attorney is
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's not easy to pick the right attorney. And what's even harder is leaving an attorney once you've chosen them. So a lot of people really struggle to figure out, should I jump ship or not? Will it look bad to the to repay?
interesting. So you see people that get started and then it's hard to leave. So
Hard to leave.
they're
Hard to know when to
questioning.
leave.
Oh, ooh. So
Hmm. And then as far as planning for divorce, like there's so many options and each divorce is so different. It's so customized to the couple. And so one of the things that I'm usually asking people about in the consultation is tell me how you fight. Tell me how you resolve problems. What's the relationship dynamic so that we can predict the behavior moving forward because those relationship dynamics do not change when you get divorced at all. Predict the future and we can also think about the strategy that's best for the specific couple given their issues and their relationship dynamic.
yeah, very similar to estate planning. Like I want to know
Mm-hmm.
those details,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, the documents and the the laws are one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
in order to come up with your strategy, those that's really everything you need to know. You want to know the dynamics and those
Yeah.
things. Okay, so what people should look for. So it's hard to know when to leave. So maybe if they already have an attorney and they're going down a road, they may be questioning, oh my gosh, I guess what are some signs there if they have an attorney that maybe they should jump ship or
I think that if you're uncomfortable, you should get a second opinion because I've given a lot of second opinions and sometimes I tell people,
like how does that like what do you mean second opinion? Like how far in this are they? Like they already like filed the petition
oh yeah,
and
it could be write-in anytime, anytime. So I remember sitting down with somebody who was like, I don't know if my lawyer's steering me in the right direction. I knew the other lawyer. I listened to the case. I listened to what their strategy was, and I told her, I think you're on the right track. I know you
yeah.
were nervous coming in here, but I think that you're under control. I would do similar things. You might want to think about asking this or this, but you really shouldn't switch. You've got this. And maybe they just needed a confidence boost.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good. Yeah, that's good to hear that you're um, on the right track.
if
Although
yeah,
it's a tough
exactly.
track, is the hard thing. To they might seem crappy, but it's still their best option.
Right. And then, I've given other second opinions that are like, we would do things very differently.
Yeah.
This is what I would do if I were you.
So how do you charge for those second opinions? Someone
We
they can
just
say,
charge a
"Hey, I want
consultation rate.
a consultation rate," and
Hmm.
then they just kind of bring in what they have, or you just
Hmm.
review
Yeah.
as much during that consultation.
Yeah.
So nice. So cool. Yeah, I don't give second opinions very often. Although
Hmm.
it's like there's two different sides, like administering a estate almost. Where it's sometimes you have different ideas, but it's they're already representing the trustee and you're representing a beneficiary.
Right. Yeah.
So
But like
um,
lawyering is art, and there's a lot of right ways to do things. And so part of it is finding who do I feel comfortable with. There's a ton of qualified lawyers who are all doing competent work who have different styles and different approaches. And so it's kind of like dating where you really want to know like how comfortable do I feel? Does this feel right to me? Because if you're getting divorced or even if you're doing your estate plan, it's so personal. We're talking about all of the intimate details of your life. And so feeling comfortable cannot be overstated.
yeah, Yeah, definitely important to feel comfortable. So are you doing mostly virtual meetings right now?
Yeah,
And
we
I would
are.
say, how do you make people feel comfortable during those virtual meetings? Has that been a challenge for you, or is your client used to the digital meetings?
At first, we got a little bit of pushback. And at first we were offering optional in-person meetings. And then I think around June or July, we just said like, nope, no more. We got video. But I've been doing it a few months. It works well. We have excellent instructions to walk people through, what to expect. And I think in general, people are just getting more comfortable with virtual meetings and they work really, really well.
Yeah, I think you can get a lot of when you're searching for an advisor, it helps me be able to do a video meeting to see their face and talk to them that way. Even though you're not in person,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a lot better than a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use any like visual demonstrations or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Zoom and use Zoom for our consultations and video meetings, and I love the screen share feature. So we can walk through the fee agreement together. We can walk through documents together. We can highlight the language we're looking at. So, and it's I would prefer that over being in person, just stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah, and even like pre-COVID, I feel like
Hmm.
the attorney we call it the attorney review meeting when we
Hmm.
review the estate planning documents together.
Hmm.
I feel like
Hmm.
that is way more effective through the screen share and computer because then you're looking right at it together.
Yeah,
Um, I found in our process it kind of the pressure off as well because we used to combine the reviewing the documents and signing them at the same time. And
yeah.
this way, it's the hey, we're just we're looking at it together. Let's make sure it's exactly what you want, and they can get comfortable with it that way.
I totally agree.
Can you do digital signings in your stuff, or do you need the wet signatures?
No. So one of the best things that's happened out of this pandemic is that the courts have absolutely um, made progress, more progress than they did, previously. Somebody said the courts have probably more progress in the last 2 months than they would have in the next 10 years, way back when, and I think it's true. So we don't really need a lot of notaries anymore. We don't really need a lot of wet signatures anymore. And we're even like we're planning out new office space and we're even trying to figure out, okay, when we go back to in-person meetings, how do we not lose some of these benefits that we get from sharing, and how do we make sure that our technology component is always there even when people go back to meeting in person?
Yeah, yeah. So um, that's cool. You can do a lot of it. The electronic signature. So we in estate planning as well, but we still
Mm-hmm.
sign the original documents,
Mm-hmm.
paper copies. Although you
Yeah,
can do an electronic will in Arizona,
talk to me about that.
I'll tell you why I don't like it.
Okay.
So although I love technology and progressing things, um, what I think the problem with electronic wills are is you have to prove the custody of it, where it's
Mhm.
existed from the time that it's created until the
Mhm.
person passes away.
Wow.
So the
How do you
old-fashioned
do
paper,
that? Do you just show like when the file was uploaded and how the file is still there?
I guess so. I read the law, but it's heavy text stuff that I don't fully understand. But basically, you have to prove that it hasn't been changed.
Okay.
So
I mean,
that
you
comes
could
down
do
to
that.
a fee, right? So if I'm doing that as the attorney, I'm charging for that. And
Sure.
I just don't want to do it, because I don't want the liability.
Yeah.
So
I mean, wouldn't it work to just like we use box.com and the revisions are tracked within the document and you should be able to see any revisions,
you
right?
should, yeah. So yeah,
So,
it's
but the
something
question,
like
I think what
that.
you're saying is like it hasn't been challenged. Like we don't know how this gets played out.
So if someone dies,
Mm-hmm.
to bring the electronic will, we would have to bring, if it's like in your example with Box, we would have to have some
Sure.
certification that where they can prove that it hasn't been altered or tampered with.
Wow.
So, um, yeah, so I don't think it's a good idea, yet, but I like that more things can be done electronically and virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. I can't remember what I was going to say. Maybe something about the meetings, the in person and the virtual. We're getting people wanting to come back into the office. I feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of spoiled with the virtual meetings, but also the more effective too. You know, where sometimes the people that want to come in person are the people that want to kind of waste your time. I mean, I'm happy to help people as much as I can, but sometimes on the phone you realize 5 or 10 minutes you're not a good fit, but in person when they have the whole family, and I've had it literally where there's like my whole conference room is full, and then um, I realized that like they need to go to someone else like within like 5 minutes, and it's like thanks for coming
Right.
everyone, and then it kind of it takes an hour of my time usually because it's hard to make the clean exit
Right.
when they've all traveled there, they're using the bathroom and this and that, and um,
It will be so interesting to see how this, how our work evolves when we aren't required to be virtual. Like how much of what we do is just more efficient and better virtually, and what is the loss of it?
yeah, in estate planning, what I do, and I think it's similar everywhere. It's shown that we're more of a service, right? Like, but it's what people need. Some of the services that we provide is getting the document signed and notarized. There's
Mm-hmm.
cheaper options for that. Like, I don't want to be in the notary business. I feel like that's kind of like um, I practice in California too. You can't be a notary in multiple states.
Oh,
So I can practice law in multiple, but that stamp is so important that
wow.
and so in California it's a challenge to bring in notaries. So you have to pay to have a mobile notary or someone come, and they charge like 10 or 12 per signature, $10 or $12 per
Mhm.
signature. So you could be looking at 150, $200 in costs for
Wow.
notary. But the market over there is kind of more used to that. They know that that's kind of a thing there. You're just going to have to build those costs in.
Hmm.
So that may happen in Arizona as well, where going virtual. It's like, hey, do you also want to use our in-person office and notary?
Right.
For an extra. It's hard. Like people want the best of both worlds, right? They want low fees, but they want high service. So I feel
Hmm.
like um, finding the balance in between. There's a lot of opportunity there because you have like the low cost or the paralegals or those things, and then
Hmm.
versus it's hard to find an attorney. Sometimes
Right.
it can be.
Yeah. And so now with the new regulatory reform, there will be a new practitioner that is allowed to practice law that is called a legal practitioner or a triple LP.
Yeah,
And
legal practitioner. I need to remember
yeah,
that. So is that the cool
yeah,
kids are calling it legal practitioner?
yep,
The
yep,
triple
yep.
LP confuses me because it reminds
I
me of
know.
like
So we're
uh,
referring to them as LPs.
yeah, because like it reminds me of a limited liability, limited partnership
Right.
is also
Hmm.
a triple
Hmm.
LP,
Hmm.
although not that popular.
No. And so what this means is like at least through my business, through modern law, people will be this means a couple lawyers will be able to send LPs to status conferences or RMCs or things that they were not able to delegate before, they will be able to delegate.
That is great for the public. That
It
is
is
great for law firm
great.
owners. It's gonna just improve
Totally
the
agree.
efficiency.
Yeah, and it's going to take lawyers out of doing work that they don't have to do so that you're only paying the highest paid individuals to do the most complicated legal work. So we're already planning for how are we going to train our very, very qualified paralegals to do more? How are we going to teach them how to go to trial on certain cases? How are we going to
So
teach them how to mediate?
so your paralegals, they can become LPs, legal practitioners.
They
And what does
can't.
that look like? Is that like a test?
Yeah, there's a test, there's educational requirements, and the test is not out yet, but it should be out by January 1. And I have a couple paralegals who are certified legal document preparers who have been working in this industry for more than 20 years, who are highly, highly competent.
Yeah.
And we're
Some of
going to do internal training and make them the best darn LPs people could possibly hire.
That's awesome. I was going to say some of the worst drafting I see comes from attorneys.
Right? There's good drafters and bad drafters that are lawyers, and the same is true for paralegals. And so it
Yeah,
really comes down to the individual, not the education level. But I'll tell you, my attorneys are not thrilled. They're like, "Why? Who's going to pay my law school bills? Like, if I could practice law without going to law school, I have." So I can understand that perspective.
yeah, that's tough for them, right? Just took the bar right now. But here's what I would say to them, and I think this is true. Um, that education that's going to separate them from those people. They should be
Right.
able to take on harder things and bigger
Right.
things. I'd say this is good for them.
Yep.
It's going to make it more efficient where people can afford to hire them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what I'm saying to them is like, you're going to become a neurosurgeon. You're no longer going to be the doctor working in urgent care. You're going to be the neurosurgeon. And as long as you're providing excellent, high quality legal work, your value goes up, not down.
Yeah, but if you were just hanging on because no one else
Right.
wanted to
You
take the
were
bar exam.
prescribing antibiotics and ear infections, like somebody else can do that. You're being overpaid.
Yeah, yeah. What's interesting about the virtual court, it's
Mm-hmm.
changed my practice a little bit. I don't like court. I don't go too often as an estate planning attorney, but sometimes some things get contested or formal probates. But now that you can appear via video, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Like I don't mind doing more of those then. If I can, I don't have to go down to court. I can just check in during video,
Yeah.
and then
And you know what else that means is there's always been a shortage of lawyers in rural areas. And if we can go represent someone in a rural area by showing up on video, now we've increased access to justice.
wow,
And
I didn't think
now
about that. That's
we don't
huge.
have to charge people to travel. Like that's an incredible benefit to the public.
Yeah. So we have an office in Payson as well. One of my attorneys was there the other day, Will Graves. I haven't been there in a long time, but we used to tell people it's kind of like, no, I'm not a Payson attorney. There's some people they want a local, but I'm like, I've gotten the reputation up there where I just do the hard things. There's plenty of
Mm-hmm.
people that can do the regular stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but when it blows up, they call me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good place to be. So
Yeah.
it's what this does, though, like what I've been doing in Payson, you can do that virtually somewhere. So you bring in, you can
Mm-hmm.
practice, without, making the little drive or commute.
Yeah.
Another way this has changed things, I have a client here in Arizona, and there's a trust in Florida. So we have Florida counsel, and we're suing the trustee there. And my client didn't want to go back to Florida, but it's like, wait, now, and we know they're going to order. It's been interesting to see how they do it in different states, to see how the procedure is and all that. But he's like, their judge is going to order a settlement conference, but now that'll be virtual. So it shifted our strategy a little bit. It's like, all right, let's get that going versus,
Yeah.
him having to go all the way out there and face people in person.
Yeah. The efficiency is just so much better. Like it's a win for everybody.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe some more things that are possible because of that law. Or so we have the LPs. So it brings in
Mm-hmm.
the new legal practitioners. That's how I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to remember it. Legal
Mm-hmm.
practitioners. It's kind of like a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
So
And then the
that's
other
pretty.
big change is that non-lawyers have always been prohibited from owning law firms or owning any piece of law firms or receiving any piece of a fee agreement or a piece of legal fees. So we've been unable to fee split. We've been unable to share fees. We've been unable to take investment. And, being unable to take investment has a tendency to make fees less efficient. Because if you bring in a lot of money in venture capitalists, they're going to want their business to be run efficiently. Now, the flip side of that is lawyers are saying, but they shouldn't be able to tell us how to practice law. And that's true. Non-lawyers should not be able to tell you how to practice law. And the rules make it clear that that is the case. Non-lawyers do not get to tell you how to practice law.
Yeah. So I think this is awesome. So it's funny that people are worried about non lawyers controlling how they practice law. but they're not concerned about their health care or their dental care. So
Well,
it's
that's
like
the
we can
thing.
separate those things, where
Yeah,
um,
like the system works so that if doctors do a bad job, you sue them. It costs the company that owns them a lot of money, and the company that owns them that makes a lot of money makes the doctors act better. Like that doesn't seem to be such a bad system for lawyers,
yeah, you're still liable as the attorney, right? It's
right?
not getting away of that if you're
And the
practicing law.
business is liable.
Yeah.
The
So
owners are going to want the law firm to behave in a way that is consistent with what the clients need. I think, like maybe that's my naive capitalist brain, but I think the objectives will align.
yeah, I think so too. So right after I saw the news, I posted, it's like law firm for sale, January 2021. Who's
Get,
interested?
you get any
Yeah.
takers?
Um, I have some people that are interested in some ways, but it's like I'm just kind of exploring what's possible,
Yeah.
and I see that leveraging into different businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, so my company Mont Legal, it's designed, similar to yours, where it's not practicing law. So
Mm-hmm.
is your modern law practice, is that a law firm?
Not a law firm.
Right, so that can be scale. So that could already be owned by
Mm-hmm.
non-attorneys
Right.
and scale out that way.
Right.
But what I think it does is it kind of legitimizes that, where there may be some investors where they want to have actual ownership of it to
Mm-hmm.
secure their
Yeah.
investment,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're going to be testing that in Arizona in different ways, and then I think other states are going to be passing this law as well. So I think I know it was voted down in California. Is that true?
I think yeah, it didn't pass in California. Utah passed a regulatory sandbox that will allow the experiment for a period of I think 2 or 3 years.
I thought that was interesting. We're like, oh, we'll
Mm-hmm.
try it, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not. But
We're not gonna make
maybe that's just how they that state. Like we'll try
Mhm.
it, and then after they
Yeah,
try it, nothing horrible happens.
great. And I don't have a problem at all with different states trying different things and testing. The only thing that I would love to see is data. I would love to see this be tested in a way that's systematic. Are more people helped? Can people access legal services for less money? Do we have better legal outcomes? That's what I care about.
Yeah, and I'll add one more. Does it improve the lives of the attorneys and the people working in those law firms? And I
Right.
would say yes to that one as well. By all of these things, I think it's going to get better all the way around for everyone.
Mhm.
So, all right, great. So we've been going here a little bit. Um, let's talk a little bit more. So, do you see any other options, or is there anything you're exploring because of this new law changing with your business?
I
What do
mean,
you see as the initial opportunities?
I think lawyers really need to step up their game. And I think it's not a bad thing, but just need to not be complacent. We
Yeah,
have to get excellent consistently, and um, and then we have to decide: are you going to be a law firm like mine that offers LPs and embraces them, or are you going to compete with them? And then you have to decide, like, does it make sense for me to accept outside investment? Does it make
yeah.
sense for
So
me to be fee splitting? What do I hope to get with outside money?
that's kind of what I've been on that journey. I haven't been exploring the LPs as much. I don't. But I like how you brought that up. Are you going to embrace them or compete against them?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely going to try to embrace them and look for ways. But I'm not going to court, or
Right.
I guess I'm still looking for ways to do it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then outside investment. So have you explored so have you do you have any outside investors in your modern law practice company?
Nope.
No.
Nope. I'm the sole owner of all three companies. I haven't taken outside investment. Um, we're not in a cash position where I would need it, so it would only be the right opportunity that is both cash and expertise. Like if the right came along that said, we know how to scale this and we got them to it. I've got an excellent system that could be scaled, but it would take more than just money. It would also take help.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like I'm kind of the same thing because like money's not the answer. Just the money
Mm-mm,
alone.
mm-mm.
because I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, if I
Mhm.
had the money,
Right.
you know, thinking about trying to think like a private equity company. If we had unlimited funds, what would we do?
Yeah.
And
Right.
but yeah, until then, yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, splitting legal fees. What we see in the estate planning industry, we see a lot of like banks and financial companies wanting to offer legal services.
Mm.
So I'm seeing that as an opportunity where I'm going to be,
Mhm.
approaching financial advisors. I've had
Mhm.
financial advisors approach me and talk about the idea like, what if they paid me like a flat rate and then I provided estate planning for their clients,
Yeah.
or um, or offering like legal benefits. Have you heard of Hyatt Legal?
Mhm.
So they're starting to offer that directly to financial advisors, where they can pay
Interesting.
for it to have for their clients.
Cool.
So, and yeah, so that the fee sharing world, there's going to be a lot of new things possible. Okay, so what's your I want to hear about your favorite thing about the job and your least favorite thing.
I think it's the same thing. Like my favorite part of the job is creating a strong team of people around. Um, and it is also the hardest part of building a law firm.
Yeah, so creating a strong team, and
Yeah,
then you're kind of that for your clients, right? So you're the that strong team for them.
right. Like it's the hiring, it's the mentoring, it's the management, it's the systems, it's making sure following systems, it's making sure that people are happy, that they understand the vision, that they're representing the vision of modern law well. Like it's hard, but it's so rewarding. And my that I got right now is just they're just phenomenal. They're just so good, and I'm so lucky to work with them.
Yeah, that's cool. You get good people is everything. Having a good team where they can help you create ideas and carry out ideas.
Yeah,
I feel like the best ideas in my company weren't mine. They were people on the team
yeah.
have stepped up and seen opportunities and different things. Um, so where do you see the legal industry in 10 years? That's a
That is
question I like to
such an
ask,
interesting question.
all the time, and that's
Well, I think that we will see legal clinics available um, on demand. So I think people will be able to ask a lawyer a question. Not at Walmart. There will be clinics, kind of like we have, urgent care clinics. People will be able to see a lawyer for a lot less money for simple things, and that's a great thing. Um, will it be invested in creating a more scalable model for lawyers? Lawyers will probably make less money, or many lawyers, the ones who aren't willing to invest in being excellent will become like ophthalmologists in Walmart. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are ophthalmologists in Walmart who get great salaries and have benefits and go to work and don't have to worry about anything else, and that's a good fit for them. And we will have that option for lawyers that we don't have now. And lawyers who get more and more expensive and more valuable. That's what I think will happen.
yeah. I like it. I agree with you. It's definitely going to be exciting. This next year, 2, 3 years. I think we're going to see a lot of a lot of those changes start to happen, and then kind of take hold over the next 10 years. I would say. So I think a lot of it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be right now and the next couple of years. Okay, last question I'd like to close out with. I stole this question from my friend Raphael, CEO Pulse podcast. But he asked, it's a time machine question. So you run into yourself, your 18-year-old self. What would you tell yourself? You just got a minute. Um,
I think I would just say like enjoy the ride. Like life's crazy and it's stressful and it's exciting, and each moment you're in is valuable. And if you can see each moment and each part of the ride as valuable and worth it, that would be what I would tell my 18-year-old self.
that's great. I think we should close right there, right on that. This has been fun. I could talk about the legal industry all day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in, those that watched live and those on the replay. How can people reach out to you? Or they shouldn't.
No, I'm really
If you don't
accessible.
like the law, this is where you.
Yeah, if you wanna hate, it's cool. You can email me at Billie Billie at mymodernlaw.com. Or you can go to mymodernlaw.com or modernlawpractice.com or idover.life.
So, all right, great. Thanks, Billy. Thanks for
Thank
joining.
you. So good
We'll
to
see you
see you.
later. You
Bye.
too. Bye.